Look in the mirror. Are you a redhead? If you are, I'm about to tell you what that actually says about your ancestry. And if you're not, I'm going to show you why red hair in your family tree is still one of the clearest genetic signals you can have. Because there is a straight answer to this one. It just isn't the answer most people expect. Start with the machinery, because everything else depends on it. Your hair color comes down to two pigments. Eumelanin is the dark one, browns and blacks. Pheomelanin is the other, reds and yellows. Everyone produces both. What differs between us is the ratio. Controlling that ratio is a single gene called MC1R sitting on chromosome 16. Think of it as a switch. When it works normally, it tells your pigment cells to make eumelanin, and you get brown or black hair. When it carries certain variants, the switch doesn't flip properly. Production shifts toward pheomelanin instead. That's red hair. One gene with a known job doing that job differently. And there are many ways it can go differently. More than 70 variants of that gene have been documented. Some produce deep auburn, some produce strawberry blonde, and some produce nothing visible at all, but pass straight down to your children anyway. Which brings us to the number that makes any of this worth knowing. Worldwide, red hair occurs in roughly 1 to 2% of people, fewer than 1 in 50. But that global figure hides the thing that actually matters. Red hair is not spread evenly across the world, not remotely. In Ireland, estimates put it around 10% of the population. In Scotland, between 10 and 13%. Those two countries hold the highest concentrations of red hair anywhere on Earth. Step outside them, and it drops away fast. England sits around 4%. Across most of Asia, Africa, and the Americas, it is close to nothing, appearing mainly where European ancestry arrived. So you have a trait that is rare globally and heavily concentrated in one specific corner of Northwest Europe. That is what a real ancestry signal looks like. It clusters. It has a geography you can point at. And that geography stretches further than most people expect. Red hair also occurs naturally along the Norwegian coast, in Denmark, and in Iceland. Below Irish and Scottish levels, but well above the global average. Which is exactly why the Viking assumption exists. If you have read anything about the Norse, you have met red-haired Vikings. Eric the Red, the man who founded the Norse settlement in Greenland, was called that for a reason. The sagas describe him with red hair and a red beard, and he is far from alone. Norse literature is full of red-haired figures, so the picture is fixed in everyone's head. Vikings were fair, often red-haired, and if you have got red hair, that is your Norse ancestry showing. For a long time, nobody could test that. Sagas were all we had. Then, in 2020, somebody tested it properly. Researchers sequenced the whole genomes of 442 Viking-age individuals, men, women, and children, recovered from burial sites across Europe and Greenland. It is the largest genetic study of Vikings ever conducted, and it ran in the journal Nature. They were not reading descriptions of Vikings anymore. They were reading the Vikings themselves. And what came back contradicts the picture almost completely. Most Vikings were dark-haired. The lead researcher, Eska Willerslev, put it about as bluntly as it can be put. People living in Scandinavia today are more blonde than the Vikings were. The vast majority of Vikings were dark-haired. Viking-age individuals actually carried more dark-haired genes than modern Danes do, and there is a detail from that same study that goes even further. At a Viking burial site in Orkney, they found men buried with swords and Viking grave goods, given full Viking funerals, who were not genetically Scandinavian at all. Being a Viking, it turns out, was something you did, not something you inherited. So no, red hair is not a Viking marker. The sagas are literature, written down centuries after the events they describe, and a man like Eric the Red gets remembered precisely because he stood out from the people around him. But stay with me, because what red hair does prove is more specific and more useful. It places your family in Northwest Europe with real confidence. Ireland, Scotland, the Isles, and the coastal fringe of Scandinavia. And those are exactly the places where Norse settlers and Celtic populations lived alongside one another and had children together for 300 years. Your red hair is not proof of a Viking ancestor. It is proof your family comes from the part of the world the Vikings sailed to, settled in, and never fully left. Which is a stronger claim, not a weaker one. It is checkable. So how does it move down a family? Red hair is recessive, and that single word explains almost everything confusing about it. You carry 2 copies of that gene, one from each parent. To have red hair, you generally need both copies to carry a red hair variant. Inherit one variant and one normal copy, and you will not be a redhead. But you are a carrier. It is in you, and you can pass it on. Which means 2 brown-haired parents can absolutely have a red-haired child if both happen to be carriers. When both parents carry it, the odds run about 1 in 4 with each pregnancy. That is why red hair skips generations. That is why it appears suddenly in a family that has not seen it in decades. Nothing came from nowhere. It was being carried silently the whole time. One honest caveat: with more than 70 variants in circulation, the real genetics are messier than a clean 2-copy rule. Some combinations give deep red, some give strawberry blonde, some give nothing you can see. 2 copies is the useful version, not the complete one. Now look at your skin. Do you burn instead of tanning? Do you have freckles across your nose, your shoulders, the backs of your hands? Because red hair rarely travels alone. The same variants that shift your pigment toward pheomelanin also change your skin. Less eumelanin means less protection from ultraviolet light, which means skin that burns rather than tans. And freckles are pheomelanin too, gathered in patches. Red hair, fair skin, freckles. 3 traits, 1 gene. This is why the cluster matters more than any single piece of it. All 3, and you are looking at a strong signal. And here is the part most people miss. If you have fair skin and freckles but not red hair, there is a good chance you are a carrier. The gene is there. It just is not fully expressed. You do not need red hair to be carrying the red hair gene. You just need to know what else to look for. So, does red hair mean you have Viking blood? Not on its own. The Vikings themselves were mostly dark-haired, and some of the men buried as Vikings were not Scandinavian at all. But it tells you something the sagas never could. It places your ancestry with real confidence in the exact stretch of northwest Europe where Norse and Celtic families merged into one population and stayed there. That is not a myth. That is a map. So look in the mirror one more time. Tell me in the comments which of the 3 you have got. All 3, 2, 1, or none. I want to see how this channel splits. And if you want to know exactly where your family sits on that map, this is one of the few traits where a DNA test confirms what your face has been telling you all along. Those variants show up in most consumer ancestry panels. Your hair color has been keeping a record this whole time. It has just been waiting for someone to read it back.